Have you ever found yourself torn between your desires, your emotions, and your reason? Maybe you've wanted something so deeply, yet held back because something inside you said, "Not now." Or perhaps you felt an overwhelming drive to achieve something but couldn't quite connect it to a deeper meaning. This tension, this inner conflict, isn't new. Over 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Plato was grappling with the same questions about what drives human behavior and what makes us who we are. And in his exploration of the human soul, he outlined a triad of forces that shaped our lives: logos, thymos, and eros. But what's fascinating is that these ancient concepts, though over 2 millennia old, still resonate deeply with modern psychological theories. Today, we're going to explore how these ideas have endured, evolved, and can still inform how we understand our minds today. In Plato's model of the soul, logos represents reason and rationality. Thymos embodies our spirit and willpower, and eros is our desire, our love and longing. Each one of these forces plays a role in shaping how we think, how we act, and how we feel. Plato believed that a well-balanced life requires these three forces to work in harmony. The imbalance or dominance of any one force can lead to dysfunction, personally or socially. Now let's fast forward to today. What if I told you that these same three forces, reason, will and desire, are just as relevant in modern psychology? Let's dive deeper into how these ancient ideas have parallels in contemporary science. Logos, the part of us that reasons, analyzes, and makes logical decisions, is central to what we call cognitive psychology today. This field explores how we think, how we process information, and how we solve problems. Researchers like Daniel Kahneman have shown that we often have two systems of thinking. System 1, which is fast, intuitive, and emotional, and System 2, which is slower, more deliberative, and logical. Plato's logos is the embodiment of that System 2 thinking. It's the part of our minds that allows us to step back, reflect, and make thoughtful choices rather than acting on impulse. But here's where it gets interesting. Modern psychology tells us that we can't rely entirely on reason. When we try to control everything with pure logic, when logos dominates, it can lead to emotional detachment or paralysis by analysis. We become like a computer, coldly calculating but disconnected from what truly drives us. That's where thymos and eros come in. Thymos is our spirited nature. It's the part of us that craves honor, recognition, and achievement. In modern psychology, this closely relates to motivation theory, especially the idea of self-determination and willpower. Think of thymos as the energy behind your ambition, your courage to take risks, and your desire to stand up for what you believe. In psychological terms, it's tied to our intrinsic motivation, our inner drive to pursue goals that matter to us. It's also connected to self-esteem and autonomy, our need to feel capable and in control of our lives. But here's the catch. If thymos isn't balanced by logos, it can get out of control. It can turn into unchecked aggression, narcissism, or a thirst for power that disregards others. It's that raw drive that needs direction. Modern studies on willpower, for example, show that while it's an essential part of achieving success, it's a limited resource. When we rely too heavily on sheer will, on thymos, we eventually burn out. That's why thymos needs to work alongside both logos and eros to create meaningful, sustainable action. And then we have eros, the part of us that longs, that desires, that reaches for connection, beauty, and love. Plato saw eros as a powerful force that drives us toward both physical and emotional fulfillment, and today, psychologists agree. In modern psychology, eros finds its reflection in attachment theory, which explains how our earliest bonds shape our capacity for love, intimacy, and connection throughout life. Eros also corresponds to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, particularly the need for love and belonging, and the higher need for self-actualization, the drive to become the best version of ourselves. But there's a fine line here, isn't there? When eros is not tempered by reason or aligned with our higher values, it can lead to impulsiveness, addiction, or obsessive behaviors. We might chase desires that are fleeting or self-destructive, falling into what modern psychologists call hedonic adaptation, where the pursuit of pleasure becomes an endless cycle. Yet when eros is balanced, When desire is informed by reason and directed by will, it can lead to profound creativity, connection, and personal growth. It's what powers our relationships, our artistic endeavors, and our sense of purpose in the world. Now, Plato had this vision of a charioteer, a metaphor for how these forces should be balanced. Imagine Logos as the charioteer, guiding the two horses of Thymos and Eros to pull us in the right direction. The horses are powerful, but they need guidance to reach their full potential without veering off course. Today, modern psychology mirrors this idea. Cognitive psychology emphasizes the need for emotional regulation, using Logos to manage our Thymos and Eros, not suppress them, but guide them. It's the same message we see in emotional intelligence, the ability to be aware of our emotions and desires, but not controlled by them. Similarly, self-determination theory tells us that the best motivation comes from a balance of autonomy, Thymos, competence, Logos, and connection, Eros. This balanced integration allows us to live meaningful, productive, and fulfilled lives. So why does this matter today? Because the same forces Plato described thousands of years ago still live within us. The balance between our rational mind, our spirited will, and our desires shapes everything we do, whether we're leading a team, building relationships, or seeking personal growth. By understanding how Logos, Thymos, and Eros work together, and how modern psychology informs these ancient concepts, we can learn to live more balanced, fulfilled lives. We can avoid the pitfalls of being overly rational, overly driven, or overly indulgent. Instead, we can cultivate harmony within ourselves. Plato's insights, combined with modern science, remind us that the key to a flourishing life isn't found in any one part of our psyche, but in the dynamic balance between them all.